There is something inherently audacious about making a film that spans 47,000 years of human existence and compresses it into 94 minutes. That is precisely what Andrew Stanton attempts with In the Blink of an Eye, his long-awaited return to live-action filmmaking. In the Blink of an Eye captures a snapshot of humanity's past, present, and future, all in the span of a single, multi-perspective narrative. It brings to life three stories, the first featuring a Neanderthal family struggling against nature, the second following an anthropologist named Clare as she makes major discoveries on the personal and professional front, and a third set in the far future, journeying alongside a nigh immortal astronaut named Coakley, who is tasked with making humanity interplanetary. The connective tissue between these three stories isn't plot, it's theme, loss, birth, legacy, the passing of knowledge from one hand to the next, and at the center of it all, a single, unassuming object, an acorn. A tiny little seed withstands the forces of nature to one day become one of the strongest pillars of the forest. In short, it is the hard times that make us stronger, so we are able to build a better future, not only for ourselves, but for generations to come. The film opens with the Big Bang, the universe's own blink of an eye, before settling into the dust of prehistory. The connective tissue between these three stories isn't plot, it's theme, loss, birth, legacy, the passing of knowledge from one hand to the next, and at the center of it all, a single, unassuming object, an acorn. A tiny little seed withstands the forces of nature to one day become one of the strongest pillars of the forest. In short, it is the hard times that make us stronger, so we are able to build a better future, not only for ourselves, but for generations to come. The film opens with the Big Bang, the universe's own blink of an eye, before settling into the dust of prehistory. In 45,000 BCE, one of the last remaining Neanderthal families on Earth finds itself isolated from any larger settlement and chooses to reside in a cave. Thorn, the patriarch, has an accident while gathering food and endures significant internal bleeding and has to be taken care of by his family, comprising his wife, Hera, and their two young children. Wordlessly making their way through the tribulations of raising a family in an age before Google or Mr. Rogers, well, wordlessly insofar as the guttural grunts spoken between them go untranslated, Thorn and his family find in their modest means of survival little more than the fuel for a future anthropologist's academic research. Stanton leans almost entirely on visual storytelling here, and it is the film's most purely cinematic stretch. We don't need language to understand what it costs this family to survive. Thorn recovers from his injuries, his wife Hera nursing his broken body back to health, only for the family to be struck again. Tragedy soon strikes the family when their youngest baby dies due to mysterious causes. Hera gives Thorn an acorn pendant during his recovery, a small, hand-carved symbol of potential, patience, and the promise that small things survive to become something greater. The acorn is passed down generation by generation, becoming the film's central symbol. Shortly after the birth of her third child, Hera passes away due to health complications, leaving the Neanderthal family shattered. Thorn and his children take on a nomadic lifestyle but are ultimately found by a tribe of humans who take them in. What follows is one of the film's most meaningful, quiet moments. Thorn, a Neanderthal, integrates into a community of Homo sapiens. Thorn was an excellent craftsman, and when he joined the new group, he shared his inventions, fire, the flute, and cave paintings, with his new campmates. What the film was trying to suggest is that in human evolution, every small step matters. It was through community and shared values that we survived for so long. Thorn's daughter Lark married a Sapiens in the settlement and carried her family's legacy forward. After Thorn died, his daughter and his son buried his body near the cave where the family used to live. The acorn pendant passes to Lark and then to her daughter, whose body millennia later Clare will unearth from the soil. In 2025 CE, Clare, an anthropologist, has an on and off relationship with Greg, a statistician working at her university. Clare's work involves the examination of prehistoric human remains, and this time, the skeleton she is working on turns out to be holding an acorn pendant. Clare is the bridge figure of this triptych, the woman whose scientific curiosity reaches backward into the past even as her personal life pulls her urgently forward. Claire learns that her mother has been diagnosed with a fatal disease and has very little time left to live. Abandoning her job at the university, Claire heads back to Canada but finds herself incredibly lonely. As she enters a long distance relationship with Greg, the two begin to fall in love, and this newfound companionship is key for Claire when she later loses her mother. The parallel between Claire's grief and the prehistoric Thorn's grief is the film at its most intentional. Both figures lose someone who defined their world, and both choose to endure rather than collapse. But the echoing of emotional beats across timelines is also where critics found Blink most heavy-handed. At just around 90 minutes, it often feels like the Cliff's Notes version of a 500-page novel. Claire's academic breakthrough comes from her study of the Neanderthal Sapiens genetic crossover, specifically the way ancient intermingling of species led to biological advantages that were passed down across millennia. It was through the study of Sapiens and Neanderthalensis genomes that Claire was able to make a breakthrough that helped her son David to lay the foundation of his futuristic gene replacement technology. In 2030, we learned that Claire and Greg tied the knot and are now the parents of a child named David. This child grows up to become a world-famous inventor, creating an anti-aging technology by the name of Elixir. The Acorn pendant from the excavation site becomes an heirloom, passed from the skeleton to Claire, from Claire to David, and eventually embedded into the founding mythology of the company that would, centuries later, redefine the limits of human life. In the far future, an astronaut named Coakley has been tasked with making a century-spanning interstellar journey to raise a new generation of children. He is a genetically modified human, a product of David's Elixir technology, engineered to survive what no ordinary human could endure. Coakley was a synthetic human, which is why she survived more than 350 years of space travel without cryosleep. Her companion is Rosco, an AI co-pilot, and for much of the journey, her only companion. The third storyline is where the film most clearly echoes Wall-E, a solitary figure aboard an ark of humanity's last hope, tending to the fragile mechanisms that sustain life, confronting the crushing weight of a mission that won't conclude within a single lifetime. Coakley learns that the greenhouse in her spaceship has been infected and the plants that supply her oxygen are rapidly dying. While Coakley initially plans to take her own life and leave enough oxygen for the babies, her AI friend and assistant Rosco suggests that it be shut down and the space be used for a second greenhouse, to which Coakley obliges with a heavy heart. The sacrifice of Rosco, an AI choosing its own termination to preserve biological life, is the most emotionally resonant moment of the third storyline and one of the film's most moving beats. Coakley experiences loss through the loss of her children and the AI tool that accompanied her for a long time. Roscoe's shutdown mirrors every loss in every previous generation. Hera's death, Claire's mother's death. The form changes, the grief doesn't. While the first 4 babies pass away due to numerous complications, the 5th baby makes it and grows on to become Coakley's second in command. With half of the mission now accomplished, she decides it's time to head to a brand new world. In the blink of an eye ends with a statement of hope as it is revealed that humanity has successfully started anew on the new planet Coakley calls home. Although the journey to this new planet may have taken centuries, in the end, the scenery Coakley steps onto is indistinguishable from Earth's nature, with dense, lush greens spreading as far as the eye can see. Having spent an incomprehensible amount of time alone in the spaceship, Coakley finally regains her connection with nature. And this time, she is not alone. Most of the children she raised have grown up now and are right there by her side when the ship's gates open. It is implied that the group turns into a matriarchal society of sorts, retracing humanity's forward journey in a new light. A civilization beginning again, led by a woman who was designed not to die and who now must watch the lives of those she loves come and go like seasons, generation after generation. The ending's most philosophically charged moment comes with the death of V, the first child born aboard the spaceship. Coakley's oldest companion on Kepler 16b. From Coakley's arrival on the planet, we jump several decades into the future, where V, the first child to be born on the spaceship, has now died of old age. For Coakley, who seemingly hasn't aged a day, seeing V's journey from start to finish is as heartbreaking as it is inspirational. She acknowledges that death is not necessarily the culmination of one's life, but merely a signifier of the wheels turning, as each human existence is part of a much larger cycle, both literally and spiritually. The fact that Coakley is brought to the funeral ceremony by a child is symbolic by itself, as it confirms that we now have multiple generations of humans on this new terraformed planet. The movie's ethos, as such, is not to reject death, but to acknowledge it as something that gives life even more meaning. In the final moments of the movie, we learn that the skeleton being studied by Clare's team is most likely that of Lark's daughter and Thorne's granddaughter. In one of the scenes, we see that the child sports a birthmark on her left cheek, and later that same birthmark can be seen on the dead old woman's face. The remains of Thorne's unnamed descendant are discovered by Clare's team after all this time, and a brushdown reveals the Acorn pendant, which then goes on to be worn by Clare herself and then made into an heirloom for Elixir as a company. The Acorn travels 47,000 years. From Hera's hand to Thorne's, from Thorne's burial to Clare's laboratory, from Clare's pocket to David's company logo, from David's elixir to Coakley's immortal body to the soil of a new planet. With thousands of years of history behind it, the Acorn serves as the linchpin for the entire narrative, tying together many of its themes. The film never explicitly shows us what happened to Earth, but it leaves enough breadcrumbs to theorize. In his speech, Clare's son David said that the human lifespan was nothing more than the blink of an eye to the universe around us. He believed that time had been our enemy, and through his technology, he wanted to defeat it. But Clare had a different perspective. She believed that life only had meaning because it came to an end. David's technology might have had a hand in destroying the planet. Maybe after creating an antidote for mortality, the humans realized that they had created a curse they couldn't exorcise. That's why they sent Coakley with a Noah's Ark to a far-off planet to rebuild things from scratch. The implication is chilling. Immortality didn't save humanity. It may have ended it. The very thing David created to defeat death metastasized into the condition that made Earth uninhabitable. Coakley later told V that it was actually bad to live for too long. An immortal woman who knows exactly what it cost humanity to reach the stars, standing over the grave of someone she loved and choosing to believe that the limit of a life is what makes it worth living.